I share my story as needed within the community if it'll make a point, if it's going to be effective, because my role is not a woe is me situation. Mm-hmm. It's a, look, I've had an interesting upbringing and there's been some challenges.
Hello and welcome to the Inspired Woman Podcast. I'm Marcy Narum. This podcast is dedicated to impacting a multitude of women with its mission to celebrate, encourage, empower, educate, entertain, and connect women. This episode is brought to you by Photos by JC. If you're looking for a fun, no-pressure photo shoot where you actually enjoy being in front of the camera, give JC Vogelweed a call. She specializes in families and seniors. Check her out at photosbyjc.com. And I'm happy to have Shauna Labor here with me today. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And it's a real honor to be here with you today.
Glad to have you. We are in the midst of April. It is Child Abuse Awareness Month. And that's what we want to talk about today.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so the Prevent Child Abuse Awareness North Dakota, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. You're involved in that. So explain that a little bit.
So Prevent Child Abuse North Dakota does a lot of resourcing for new parents, young moms, working and reaching out to hospitals and tribal governments and trying to produce better outcomes for children throughout North Dakota, specifically with younger parents who have are reaching out and just don't have an understanding, like, what do I do with this child that just came out of me and I have no idea what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. They have resources at the hospitals that they hand out, and the hospitals then hand it out to the new moms. And they also do some parenting assistance at they have some contracts with some of the tribal governments, and actually send people into the home to just be a part of the family and give tips and tricks. And, this is really normal. And, this is okay. Here's some things to really work on just in case. And they're meant to really be a part of the family and to just help these young moms and people who don't always have a great support system, and kind of fill that void of the support system. Mm-hmm. And what does good parenting look like? Because not everybody has that picture.
Sure, right.
So
not always, haven't had that experience.
Oh, exactly.
Even.
Yes.
So I think we're probably most familiar with the pinwheels. That's what comes to mind when mm-hmm. I think of, and you call it PCAND for short.
Yes.
Prevent Child Abuse North Dakota.
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. And so April is national because there's actually a Prevent Child Abuse national organization, and we really this PCAND is that's our mission, is to help support that throughout the year, but specifically in April. And the blue pinwheels, blue is just the color that's picked for this, because I guess everybody's got to have a color, right? Yeah. And so, and the pinwheels are just a great reminder. And a lot of companies and government entities, schools, I know in Mandan, our city hall, they always participate and put mm-hmm. the pinwheels out. And it's more just to remind us that, hey, child abuse is out there. It's something that is in our community. You can't just pretend, close your eyes and pretend like it does not exist. It mm-hmm. does. And so since it's there, how do we, just, if you see it, if you, that you can say something, there are resources. We're aware of it, and we want to help those kids. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's really, the pinwheels are kind of a fun way, and then it gets the kids engaged. Like, hey, what does that mean? What are you guys, what does this, child abuse mean? And it really starts the conversation of what does child abuse mm-hmm. look like? Because sometimes the kids will come home and say, hey, Mom, we heard about this, and, Johnny, he really struggles with some of these things. And then, you can get some community interaction and maybe getting a kid out of a really bad situation where they weren't previously, didn't understand, nobody knew that was as bad of a situation. So it's used to make children aware, to make adults aware, so that everybody is just reminded that we have this issue in our society, and it's worthy of paying attention and to do something about it.
So the conversations that start, you're talking about children, is it they've had this at school, and or like the pinwheels, they talk about it at school, and maybe it's opened their eyes that shouldn't be happening at home. Okay.
Right. And I think that's it. And since it happens every year, it happens throughout a child's development. So from the minute that they go to kindergarten, every year they get this kind of reminder of, not only the parents who are dropping all the kids off, but all the kids and everybody who has anything to do with the children is reminded that there's something out there, and that we can help and identify it and hopefully make a better outcome.
And are there other ways that people can, I guess, be aware or participate in this month, of awareness?
Right. Yes. So there's on the website, there's a lot of different activities. But Prevent Child Abuse North Dakota, what we really try to do is make sure that we're offering parenting classes. And that is truly, even in Mandan last week or something, they had the how to parent your teen, like teenagers who have issues, that you can take some classes and kind of figure out some good tips and tricks on how to raise your teenager if you're starting to feel like you have problems. And then just the parenting classes for children. So they have all those resources, and those are all on their website where they offer those classes. And that's a big part, is just education. And Prevent Child Abuse North Dakota is committed to education. And the more you know, and the more tools a parent has, then the less likely they feel like they're out of control. Because I believe that I've never met a mom or a woman who's pregnant and has never been a mom or about to be a mom, and who says, I can't wait for this kid to come out of me so I can torture it, beat it, kill it. Like, that's not the human reaction to having a child. The human reaction to having a child is almost always, this amazing, wonderful experience. So it's when the child comes out and you're worn down and you're tired and you don't have maybe some skills and resources, that's when I think parents start incrementally, you make one bad choice, you make another bad choice, but you're just like, but this is the skill set. And so if you can educate and get people to that first reaction to not be damaging to the child, if we can get that to be settled down, I think we have a better outcome for the child. Because ultimately, and this is my experience, I was in foster care, I was adopted twice. I mean, I've been through a lot, but foster care and being removed from your home and being adopted later in your development is hard on the child, and the outcome is not always very good. So if you can keep that paternal, maternal, and the child, if you can keep that unit together, your outcome is always going to be the best. And so trying to make that happen more often is really the goal of Prevent Child Abuse in North Dakota, the goal of myself, because having been through everything that I had in the past, I recognize that those kids who stay intact with, at least their mom or their dad, or, or have some family, they have that support network. They have a lot more available to them throughout their life. Right. And that's important. Absolutely. Life can be long.
Well, and you mentioned that you've lived this, yes. And our viewers and listeners will be able to learn more about your story in our the May issue of Inspired Woman, and here on the website as well. So we'll learn more about that later. But that explains your interest and your passion to serve on the board of directors and make an impact in breaking the cycle, I guess you might say.
Thank you. Yes, that is correct. And when the executive director came and approached me, she was like, you would be great on our board of directors. You're such a good advocate. And I'm like, but I've never really served like that. Like, what is, are you sure? And she's like, yeah, you just got to come and hang out with us, come help us. So it really, it was very enlightening, and it's always exciting to serve, and you just want to make sure that you're doing the best job that you can for everybody.
Yeah. Is it difficult to share your story?
For me, it is incredibly difficult, because I always wonder if there is judgment, because most people look at foster kids and kids who have been damaged, I'm air quoting, but damaged, that they're untrustworthy, that they're not good people to hang around because they're not emotionally stable, or they're not because of that damage when they were younger, that they're just not people that people want to hang out with. Apparently everybody wants the pretend white picket fence people. I don't know a lot of them, but apparently the mythical creature of the white picket fence people exists. And so I would really keep it just on I share my story as needed within the community, if it'll make a point, if it's going to be effective, because my role is not a woe is me situation. It's a, look, I've had an interesting upbringing and there's been some challenges. I know how to overcome challenges. I understand the pain and heartache of parts of life, not all of it, because everybody has their own pain and heartache, but and to the extent possible, I would like to give back to whatever extent that I can, and just trying to move forward. And I don't want to get lost in that emotion of being angry, and all these things happen to me. I worked very hard to stop being angry and to forgive, and so now it's like it doesn't even. I don't want to give any of that fuel as much unless it's just part of moving forward and having healing happen.
Yeah. Well, and that brings me to the next question, the moving forward and healing. And that's a part of what else PCAN does is something called Authentic Voices. And it's kind of been in the works for a while, right?
Yes, it's really a powerful part of what we would like to do for adult survivors and survivors of abuse and historical trauma, and trying to get a format and a way that people can safely, emotionally share their story and work with others, and try to not only overcome perhaps their own issues or trauma, and learn tips, tricks, things that might have worked so that they can move forward, but also just to create a more of an understanding. Because some people honestly think that nothing ever happens to anyone, or those people, whoever those people are. Well, no, it's a lot of us have had a lot of issues in our past, and how do we break the cycle? Because what happens is you get adults who have issues, don't deal with them effectively, and then that is then on their children. They don't perhaps parent them effectively, and then you have another cycle of additional human beings on the planet who are suffering, and maybe we can help get emotional healing and stop the cycle at least, and let's move forward in a healing way and help each other.
Something that I remember from our previous conversation, having that understanding too of, you talk about those people when you said that, and it reminded me of, you said something about helping other people understand the child,
Right.
that you haven't been in their shoes. So
Right.
tell me a little bit more about that, about, how you can help other people understand that side of it.
Well, it always has to come from a place where somebody has to be open to hearing the message. And sometimes that is really hard to gauge, if somebody is even open to listening, because people can be blinded by their own perception and prejudice and not even open to listening.
They've just made up their
Yeah,
mind.
they're like, Psh, those, again, those people, right? And so it's a real trick to get into asking questions and seeing what space, somebody is coming from. And if there's any way to bridge my story, a story, into their reality that would make them think about the story they're telling themselves about this group of human beings, because it's a story, right? Everybody has their own story in their head. Our whole lives are built around whatever story we're telling ourselves, right? And so I tend to work through a lot of that with other human beings just by asking them questions like, well, what is your perspective? Where do you, have you ever seen this happen in your life? And what was your perception of that? Like, have you ever seen a kid that you thought was abused? What did you think of them? What happened? What steps did you take? And a lot of times people haven't even met a child who's been abused in their past, or they don't know that those kids have been, or even just from a cultural perspective, where we know that, particularly with Native Americans and specifically here in North Dakota, we have a tribal community that has a lot of hurt, a lot of historical trauma, and if people are not open to listening to their story, if they can't even share their story that they're in pain about, we can't get to the part where, how do we heal? Where do we go forward? Because they're in pain and they can't. We've got to get through that part. And so, it is a trick, that's for sure. And sometimes just trying to find the right words to get through, because it's not easy.
I can imagine, yeah.
Yeah, and some people you just, well, specifically like just people I know, you just have to just keep asking, and eventually, I think it makes them, specifically with people that I know have had very hardline views on people of color, Native Americans, people who are not like them. I mean, we're talking about just even being Jewish or Muslim is somehow, I mean, I'm like, okay, you realize that based on this list, like you don't like 90% of the world. So like, how do we increase these numbers a little? Yeah. So, it is a little more, it's a little challenging and trying to get to that perspective. And, sometimes these people don't even understand how hard it is just to get up every day and pretend to be normal, because they just have never had that happen to them.
Right. Sure. We can't even imagine the experiences. And I think about the word foster care. And when I hear it, when I say it out loud, I think it can have maybe a negative connotation, because does that make sense? I mean, because I think we've heard too many bad stories, or it kind of just has that blemish or black eye. But the word foster, you foster relationships, you take care of, you nurture, you love.
Right.
It's such an oxymoron to think of that, that's what it is, in foster care, and that these kids are going into a home where that's what it's meant to be.
Absolutely. I mean, it's such a point of pride for so many people in our community, where I picked up an animal from the animal pound, the animal shelter. I would never, have those dog breeders, or I'm helping save the animals, and it's a huge point of pride that they're taking these animals and giving them a place to live. And yet it seems like when we're fostering human beings, like actual humans, it does not seem to have the same, like everybody's not willing to go out and pick up a child, bring him home, but they'll pick up a dog and bring the dog home. So it is hard. It takes a certain amount of grit really to go through the whole process, do the fingerprints, do the background checks, do the home checks, deal with everything that you have to deal with to be a foster parent. And yet so many families in our community do that. And my hat's off, because it is a hard job. And they do a great job, because you're right. When the kids have to be removed, if it's just completely unable to maintain their placement, foster parents are amazing. And I worked in group homes when I was in my teens and 20s, when I was going through university. And I know that group homes, which is usually where we warehouse our older children, because we can't get foster parents for them anymore, because who wants to take a 15-year-old who's already got a bunch of issues, and they come in and they're like,
Angry,
it's very
probably.
hard, very angry,
Yeah.
Don't follow rules, have a lot of things to say. So it takes a certain grit, right? The older the kid is, the more damage that's happened, the harder it is. And so, we wind up housing kids in group homes, and where you have to pay people hourly to do things that a mom would normally do for a kid. And and it's such a difficult situation. So I am eternally grateful that we have a place for people to go. I don't want you to think that I'm not thankful for the fact that they exist, but you're right. If we could just get, everyone to take a kid, we wouldn't have such a shortage. And everybody's, when you bring a child in and you help them grow and learn to love and be the human that they were meant to be, then you're really, not only do you help that child be the best human that they can be, but then you're also helping yourself, because helping others gives you, it gives purpose. It gives meaning to life. We're not here, God did not put you on this planet to go get a great career. He put you on this planet to love others, nurture others, be family, help each other, be a unit, create something beautiful, because he created something beautiful. So, I mean, unless you have a beautiful career, which some people, maybe they make art, but sometimes I just think that people lose sight of where the real value in life might lie.
Let's go back to authentic voices.
Yes.
and how moving forward is part of what the goal is in that, helping people to move beyond.
It is. So what we'd like to do is create a safe space, a safe venue where people can get together, maybe within their communities. We'd have a community leader, maybe get together for coffee every few weeks or whatever works for every group, and find a way to help people come together, and eventually create friendships and networks where we can advocate for each other, and help each other and build something and create a network where it turns into a positive life experience, so that people who have been traumatized or, dealing with it, working through it, can be helped by people who have actually seen the other side. And, I can say unequivocally, I have, interesting days, but I'm not that angry, sad, lonely human being that I used to be. I've really learned to create a different life. And that was a process, because life is a process. There's no awesome linear path to greatness. It has the zigs and the zags and the going backwards. And so maybe if we can help each other get through that, we can get more people on the other side and advocating for, legislation, or helping people understand how they can help. And that's sometimes the biggest hurdle.
Sure. At what point in the process is Authentic Voices?
Well, we're working on trying to get everything live and creating the space so that we can have some get-togethers. Really, 2019 is our target. So this year we are, the executive director, Sandy Tipke, and myself have made it a point to get together, and we are going to make sure that in 2019 we start seeing some results of this effort, because Mikoche Studios did a beautiful job. We had just amazing people who volunteered to tell their story and share that through the video that's on the website. So
It's powerful.
absolutely,
It's gripping.
it is.
It really is.
And I think that's where we want to go, right? Is we have some amazing human beings in our community, and I want to help them heal, and I want to make sure that we get to where we can all fulfill our mission and vision in life, which is whatever you make it.
Absolutely. Well, and your story again is one that is pretty remarkable. In terms of the healing, and can't wait for people to have a chance to read that. Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month. It just feels like a long title. Probably rolls right off your tongue. I should just let you say it. How do people, there's a couple of hashtags or a hashtag. Do you want to?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So it's hashtag Wear Blue ND.
Wear Blue.
Right. Wear
ND
Blue
Day.
Yeah. Sorry about that. And, or you can email a picture. Okay. So what we do is on April 5th or anytime in April, and just hashtag it and wearing blue. And, I actually have a blue shirt with a pinwheel on it. And so what
Like
we
an
do
actual
is,
pinwheel?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
It's a picture of a pinwheel. Oh,
that
my.
would be kind of fun though.
Yeah. Now you're giving me ideas. That'll be fun. Maybe do the hat.
Do it. Yeah. Okay.
And so what we do is we have different governmental entities, school districts, businesses, and they get together and they have rivalries of who will have the most number of people wearing blue on April 5th, which is the Wear Blue Day. Mm-hmm. And they take their pictures and then they hashtag it, and then they'll put like Morton County or City of Mandan, or they'll put their entity, and then they'll count them out, and then whoever gets the most, actually between Burleigh County and Morton County, they have a trophy that they hand off to whoever gets the most. So we try to make it fun and engaging, and obviously it's fun just to get everyone together for a huge group photo in all these communities. Mm-hmm. And I always do several. I do the one for work. I work at Basin Electric Power Cooperative, and we do this huge picture on the stairs with everybody wearing blue. And then I run over to Morton County and do one with the county. I might be double dipping, but I got the one at Basin Electric is actually technically in Bismarck, so I'm probably just canceling myself out.
Oh, well, it's a good cause though, right?
Right.
That's what it's about. And it's hashtag Wear Blue Day ND, and that's Twitter, Instagram, and
Facebook.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you sharing all of this. And one question I didn't prepare you for is our tagline for Inspired Woman is, "She believed she could, so she did." And awesome. I wonder if you could think of a time in your life when that was true for you, where she believed she could, so she did.
Well, I guess I would say that would be my service to my community when I became a city commissioner, because being an elected official is like terrifying. I was not born to be a public speaker. I have to work hard to try to even be calm, cool, and collected and under pressure. It is hard for me. I like it's using all of my skills like to the max. And being an elected official, I had no idea what it would be like. I had no idea how badly our community needed to have female leadership that was younger and was maybe a little more sensitive to some of the social issues, because city government you need to have some sensitivity to individuals. And I brought, I think, a little bit of a different opinion and a different viewpoint sometimes. And I value that I did that, but I I just believed like, oh, okay, I can do that. But it took time to believe that I could do it. And then once I believed it, I was off and running. And it really was a powerful time in my life. I served one term, and it helped me immensely, just understanding how everything works. And I hope that more women run for political office and get those positions, because at the end of the day, no matter what your story is, if you can have a seat at the table, we need to have more seats at the table, because there are very few women in our state legislature. There are very few women nationally or statewide elected. I think there's one, Kirsten Baszler, and that's it for the state of North Dakota. And even throughout the United States, our numbers are just not representative of the 51% of our population that we are. So I would like to see more women, and I hope that they can believe that they can do it, because you can. It's a great way to serve your community and to understand and be the best. It makes you be the best you can be, because you're up against a lot.
Beautifully stated. Oh, thank you, Shauna.
Well, thank you so much for
having me. Glad you could share your story and bring us all this good information about authentic voices and Pecan. The Inspired Woman podcast is sponsored by Quantum Productions, the home of the award-winning director and cinematographer Nolan Johnson. He creates unique high-end video products throughout the Midwest. You can check him out at quantumprond.com.